Welcome back. In a moment, we'll find out about NASA's Armageddon mission. But first, here are some other stories to keep an eye on. Donald Trump has lavished praise on Vladimir Putin, describing him as more of a leader than President Obama. The Republican presidential hopeful said he would continue to say great things about the Russian president because Mr. Putin had said great things about him. China has accused countries outside of the Asia-Pacific region of interfering in the South China Sea dispute. The comments from the Chinese government come following a permanent Court of Arbitration's ruling against China's claim over part of the territory. And Gabon's president has resisted calls from EU observers for a recount of last week's disputed presidential vote. EU observers claimed there was a clear anomaly in Ali Bongo's home province, where he took more than 99% of the vote. Now, NASA is sending a spacecraft to intercept an asteroid which could smash into the Earth. If you're thinking that's the plot of at least 2 science fiction movies, you're right, but this time it's also science fact. The mission aims to take a sample of a piece of space rock called Bennu, which passes our planet every 6 years, but could one day come a little too close for comfort. Insight's Tig Enright reports.
In the vastness of space, rarely does a chance occur to find clues about the beginnings of life on our own planet. But an opportunity is on its way. This is Bennu, an asteroid that's passing close to Earth soon. Close enough for scientists to reach out and learn about what's on its surface. It originated in the same stellar nursery as we did 4.5 billion years ago, and scientists have been waiting for this first opportunity to see what questions an asteroid like Bennu can answer.
Planetary scientists are interested in asteroids because they're chemistry sets representing the formation of the solar system. You can't learn that on Earth because the Earth has erosion and other processes that have changed its pristine condition.
Asteroid Bennu is interesting because it's one of the blackest objects in the solar system, so we think it's covered with carbon material, organics, the building blocks of life.
An international team of scientists led by NASA is preparing to launch OSIRIS-REx, a solar-powered robotic spacecraft designed to rendezvous with Bennu. The mission's objective is simple: to collect a sample from the surface of Bennu and bring it back to Earth, but achieving it will be a lot more complicated.
I grew up playing video games about shooting lasers at asteroids, and now it's my job to shoot lasers at asteroids. It never stops amazing me.
Bennu is an irregular object, and the robot will use lasers to map it before it can attempt the most crucial part of its mission.
When we're going in to take a sample, it's a very, very fine measurement. And so if you're coming in, you've got the sampling head at the end of this arm that has to come in perfectly square to the surface. If you don't understand shape, sort of at a 30-centimeter scale, you're not going to be able to collect a sample.
Bennu is many thousand times bigger than the meteor that exploded above Russia a few years ago, and scientists warn there is a small chance it could collide with Earth in the next century. All the more reason to reach it to study its orbit. OSIRIS-REx is due to meet Bennu in 2 years' time. Tig Enright reporting for Insight.
Well, to discuss this further, I'm joined by Andrew Coates from the University College London, who's a professor of planetary science, and Greg Richters, who's a filmmaker and the co-founder of the global awareness movement Asteroid Day. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. Andrew, let me start with you, because this is clearly a landmark mission which could help us understand the origins of the solar system.
Yes, it's really one of the exciting missions going on at the moment. There's a lot of interest in small bodies. There's a Rosetta spacecraft, one of the European Space Agency spacecraft, about to finish its mission at a comet. This one, which is going to sample an asteroid. There's also the Japanese mission, Hayabusa 2, following on from the earlier Hayabusa mission, which is going to bring more samples back from an asteroid. But this particular mission is very interesting because it's going to a carbonaceous asteroid, something which which has carbon, and it's a large enough asteroid to be able to keep the dust and keep the stuff which it needs to be sampled. It will bring that back to Earth for sampling in Earthbound laboratories.
It sounds quite complicated.
It is complicated, but we need to, basically the idea is simple, of going to an asteroid, picking up some of the material, bringing it back to Earth, and doing analysis on Earth. And the types of things which are being looked at are, the amount of carbon, looking for things like the building blocks of life.
I was going to say, what will it tell us?
Yeah, so things like looking for sugars and amino acids, those sorts of things. The idea has been around for a long time of things moving around the solar system and potentially bringing water and other substances actually to Earth in the early days of the solar system to actually sort of help to kickstart life on Earth. And so one possibility for asteroids is that they brought water to Earth, but also possibly brought carbonaceous compounds. These are really old objects, old building blocks, really, of the inner part of the solar system. So it's the stuff which originally the Earth and the other planets were made of. And so it's exciting to be able to sort of take a trip back in time and see what these ancient objects are like.
This could be a massive history lesson for the human race, which is
really
fascinating.
Yeah.
But Greg, I mean, you're also closely watching this mission, and it may not spell the end of the human race, but it could have a huge impact on the human race if that asteroid were to hit Earth.
Yes, it is on a list of potentially hazardous asteroids. It is a near-Earth asteroid, so it is close enough, and in the 22nd century, I think the later half of it, it could impact the Earth. I think the chances at the moment are 1 in 2,700. So, there is a risk, but it is so far away that, and I think that's one of the beauties of this mission, is that we now have the time to analyze, to understand better what this asteroid is made out of, and then to, create plans, develop plans to figure out what to do if it did impact with the Earth.
And your organization says that there could be, around 1 million asteroids?
Yes.
Which potentially could hit Earth. So I guess the lesson we take away from that is it is more likely to happen than not.
Yes, there are 1 million. There are at the moment around 2,000 asteroids on our list of potentially hazardous asteroids. So these are the asteroids that we are watching very closely. NASA and other space agencies are, not Asteroid Day, but there are around, we estimate, 1 million asteroids. Not all of them are potentially hazardous. These are asteroids that are in the main belt, so far, far away from the Earth. And there are asteroids that we haven't found yet.
But it's happened in the past.
It's happened.
So it could happen again in the future.
Absolutely. One of our experts says it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But it's not something that we should panic about. And that's the beauty about a mission like OSIRIS-REx, is it gives us the time to develop plans far enough in advance, because there are so many elements to this. The geopolitical, who's actually going to deploy a mission to deflect an asteroid. So many different aspects to it that we really need more than a few decades of knowledge before one of these asteroids hits us, because it's a very complicated endeavor. But thanks to the beauty of our beautiful brain, it is something that the human species is absolutely capable of doing. And so it showcases the incredible abilities and the technology that we can develop to, avoid a disaster in the future.
So, Andrew, we've called this the Armageddon mission because we're obviously thinking of the Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
But Greg makes a point that, it's amazing that we can actually fly something to the asteroid to meet it out there. So potentially we could deflect it, destroy it. I mean, I don't know, what would you do with an asteroid?
Yeah, this particular one, the chances are very low, as we've heard, that this will hit Earth. It actually comes for a close encounter with the Earth-Moon system in 21 something, and depending on what happens there exactly, the precise trajectory it takes, it will probably deflect it further away from Earth, but there's a chance it might deflect it a little bit further to Earth. So knowing the enemy is certainly part of this mission, of actually trying to see more about asteroids. But really the main thing is the scientific understanding of the solar system, trying to understand our own place in the universe via looking at asteroids, comets, planets, and so on, finding out why the Earth is so special. And it is something we would want to protect.
How does this help us, though, as a global species? How does it help us to know?
Well, it helps us in the sort of philosophical sense, really, of where did we come from? How did the solar system form? The formations mechanisms, which we believe involves asteroids early on in the solar system's history. There were lots of collisions going on at that time, and which brought together the planets. And so these are the building blocks of the planet. So it's getting back really to that early time in the solar system's history and trying to understand more about what this is. And yes, the Armageddon bit is certainly interesting, but you know, there's no big worry about this particular asteroid
so
or
it's
any
going
other
to
at
add
the
to the
moment.
sum of human knowledge.
Can I also add, I think, you know, the human species, you know, with this big brain that we've got, we're doing so many terrible things to our planet, to each other, and this is really an opportunity for us to kind of, you know, play the heroes, if you want. The scientists really are the heroes in this case of, you know, averting disaster in the future, and we're talking far, far away in the future. But it's really a beautiful opportunity for us as not just as a country or as a culture, but as an entire species to do something that is great for this planet and that can potentially, you know, avert disaster.
I think it sounds like an amazing mission, and of course we'll all be waiting to see how it pans out. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining me, Greg Richters and Andrew Coates. Thank you. And we end with our Insight Bite, a little something we think you should know, and this time, well, we're going to stay with NASA, of course. It's very excited about these images of the solar wind, streams of particles that flow from the sun's upper atmosphere, called its corona. They managed to capture the pictures by using a special system that effectively turned down the lights of surrounding stars like a dimmer switch. It will help scientists understand more about how the sun works, and it plans to send a probe in there to find out even more in 2018. That's all for now. I'm Shuli Ghosh. That was Insight.